Hello, hello, and welcome to your Tuesday edition of Chicago Corner. I am your hostess, Kira Macoun, and with me today to go over the news of the weekend and the news of the day are none other than Mr. Ed Heller and Mr. Kit Cabello. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for joining me. We are keeping our fingers crossed that Jerry is able to join us. I know that he was having a few tech issues coming in, and if he's able, I think he might be popping in soon. If he's able to figure his stuff out, we're going to make sure that he gets into the stream. Miguel says, hi, Kira. What up, Miguel? Thanks for joining. Saw you
Hey,
earlier
Miguel.
in the live stream for Hardlines Media, so it was great seeing everybody there and getting to listen to the show tonight.
By the way, thank you so much for joining us for the conversation and being one of the moderators for today's show. Honestly, that MTG, I was happy to read that little thread from Revolutionary Blackout Network from JB and Nick. I thought that was so great and spot on just to deal with the madness. Kira, straight people are dying out. We're going to be extinct like the dinos.
Are we really? I hadn't heard.
No, you didn't hear this story?
Is it just like how white people are all being replaced?
Yeah, something like that. Marjorie Taylor Greene is basically saying straight people are going to go extinct within the next 4 or 5 generations. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, okay, I do believe that more and more people are going to be identifying queer because sexuality is such a gradient, right? Like I would consider myself heterosexual, but I've dated women. So that would probably make me queer or
but the
bisexual.
The way she was describing it, though, okay?
Oh, so not like that, where it's like people are going to realize there's a gradient of sexuality.
Yeah. No, what she's saying is that all straight people will just die out. They're going to go out like the dinos. That's it. No, this is more like, everyone's doing this and that, whatever. So there we go. We got Jerry in the house now. How are you doing, Jerry?
He is stoic.
It's a constant battle with Skynet over there.
Yeah.
We were hoping Jerry would have a better situation today, but it looks like he's still got a couple gremlins hanging on.
Jerry.
Maybe he can get his camera or system restarted and then join us in a moment.
Yes.
Oh, yes. We will keep our hopes high.
Yes. Hopes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think he removed himself from the stream, so I'm going to let him take care of business. So I just want to warn everybody about today's show, and Ed and I had already been talking about this, that, I kind of find today, and Kathy Powers just joined. What up? I find today's show extremely depressing. I've been in a really sad mood all day. And I don't think it's just because of the show. I think that it's sort of a collective. I think it's just kind of the feeling of the collective that I'm starting to feel. And I've just kind of been on the verge of tears all day or just tearing, and so bear with me today while I probably struggle through a lot of these stories because they're not great. They're not really horribly promising. I tried to make the homelessness story a little more promising in the end, and a little bit more hopeful, giving people an idea of how they can maybe help. But yeah, we are diving into situations that are really complicated and really complex and really difficult to deal with because of more of a national conversation, in my opinion. Which I don't love, and Ed was expressing to me he doesn't really love talking about because we really want to bring solutions to the table. And so, this is my 4th week hosting the show, And I'm just re-upping, and we talked about this last week, really re-upping my commitment to getting activists on the show to talk about what we can actually do to take action in the city. I've already put out my feelers to 24 different people, and I'm in conversation to do that. And last week handed my ass to me, so I didn't make any more headway. And then this week, I promise I will get back on that train. So that when you guys tune into Chicago Corner, it's not just more doom and gloom. I mean, I think that some people are into that, but certainly I am not horribly into it. So I don't really wish that upon anybody else. So all right. So Jerry is trying to break back into the stream. It doesn't look like he's being successful just yet, but I'm gonna let Jerry bring himself into the screen when he's good and ready. So anything to add before we start to dive into the stories of the day?
First, I'm really happy with the success for Hardlands Media right now. We're kind of doing this whole thing of occasionally, if we do have a controversial story, it's going to go on Rockford Odyssey, but everything's going to go kind of back to where it used to be. I also am very happy that Jerry Vasilatos was able to join me again on Tuesdays being the co-host because I missed Jerry. And Can TV has finally, again, organized with us, so we're able to get the shows to be premiering in late June. And we will be, all of us together in many ways, trying to get guests on Chicago Corner. Jerry Vasilatos will be interviewing them. And we have now a second show under our belt. And Hardlands Media has a show on Can TV. I finally got the end credits all set up that Jerry and Edward put up for Hardlands Media to be on Can TV. And I'm very proud of the work that the entire team put together. So there we go. Kira, otherwise you're the captain. Now, I want to make it very clear, because there's 4 of us, all of us talking might make the show go on longer. So I do want to stay here for the Walking Man segment. And with that, I will give the rest of my time to Jerry, because Jerry's done a lot for the show. So I'm going to step aside and let you 3 then carry on with the rest of the day.
Yeah. And here's
as far as
we are in a class struggle together. Yeah.
As far as all that other stuff you've mentioned a moment.
Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll hold on to that.
Come on, Jerry, stream. Come on through.
Come on. I know. Like, maybe if we all just
You
hope
can
hard
do it.
enough.
Pedal faster, internet.
Pedal
He's on
faster.
the
I'll
side.
go kid.
All right. Well, let's dive in, because it looked like I almost dropped out there before too much else happens here. So we've been closely following the story of Joseph Cremelis, who is the homeless man in Chicago known as the Walking Man. He was set on fire. I can't even believe I'm saying that. In downtown Chicago last week. He was sleeping on Lower Wacker, mind his P's and Q's, when some dude showed up and for no apparent reason doused him in gasoline and lit him on fire. Because like you do, right? I do
no,
that,
not like anybody does, Kira. That's the point. You're not supposed to do that, ladies and gentlemen. You don't just casually walk by people who are homeless or just anybody happens to be in the street and douse them with accelerant and set them on fire. These are things you do not do.
Correct. Absolutely. Thank you, Ed, for correcting me on that. And of course, I was being facetious. But yeah, who does that, right? So anyway, I want to share. Oh, Jerry, I know you had offered up $1,000 to anybody who turned him in. Well, there were a few people that actually did end up turning him in, and just to give you an idea of who this guy is, so let's go ahead and share my screen here. This is Joseph Guardia.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got gremlins in the computer again, despite 3 reboots and three completely resetting Chrome. So hopefully now I won't have a problem. But in case you guys lose me, I'll just try to jump in again.
Right on. Okay. All right. So this is Joseph Guardia. He's 27. He was captured on Trump Tower surveillance camera, standing over Cremelis's body for 16 seconds before lighting the fire. Guardia is claiming he thought it was just a pile of blankets, but the footage apparently shows that Cremelis's legs from knees down were exposed and his face appeared to not be covered either. The video shows Guardia pouring an extra large McDonald's cup filled with gasoline over Cremelis, igniting it with a lighter and then running away. He was seen on multiple security cameras, including when he took the Blue Line train and a pace bus to get to his mother's Melrose home. Cremelis was burned over 50% of his body. He's currently sedated at Stroger Hospital with non-survivable injuries. This is currently charged as tortuous attempt of first-degree murder based on the prognosis of doctors. However, if there isn't a miracle, it will soon be a first-degree murder case. One of the people who identified him to police is a Melrose Park officer who had known Guardia since childhood. And after his arrest, in a videotaped statement, he told investigators he found the cup of gas in the garbage and wanted to set something on fire. He said he was an angry person and decided he was going to set something on fire.
None of this is credible.
None of this makes any sense. No,
you don't
right? Like an
find a cup of
what doesn't make.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Jerry,
well, first of all, who knew him that turned him in?
Yeah, Jerry, we can hear you now. Go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I hear you.
Can you hear me? All right. Yeah. So this cop who knew him that turned him in, I have a connection at CPD, and I asked him, how can we find out if he was turned in or not? Because I wanted to make good on the reward. And he said, normally tips like this are anonymous, and when the timeline is revealed at trial, people will know whether or not it was an anonymous tip. But as it turns out, a cop recognized him from Melrose Park, which is like just crazy to me. I mean, I don't know who the cop is, if he's going to be identified, but yeah, everything about this, I'm glad that it seems that they were able to pull themselves together and utilize the blue light cameras to triangulate this guy's neighborhood from where he was wandering around the transit system. But did you guys see in the picture, he's wearing the same outfit he was wearing when he committed the crime? I mean, he stands out like a Q-tip with that outfit he's wearing, the white tracksuit everywhere he goes. Mm-hmm. So I guess it wasn't that hard. And apparently when they arrested him, he was wearing the same outfit. So it wasn't difficult, along with the tattoo on his face, to identify him.
Yeah. And the conversation you shared with me, Jerry, is that the conversation that you're talking about that you had with your connection? Okay. Jerry's frozen again. Well, nutsacks. Okay. We'll just keep going, and Jerry will pop in when he's ready. Okay.
Edward, you were going to add something in there real quick.
It's just it's a little bit infuriating, and then because I found a story that said that this guy had been out on bail.
No,
Uh-oh.
And
fuck this goddamn computer.
All right.
Jerry, maybe turn your camera off, see if at least your mic can come through, so there's a little less of a delay. While we're waiting for Jerry to sort out his camera, I just wanted to mention that this Guardia guy had been out on bail. And also the police were looking for him because he had violated his bond, because they couldn't locate him. And I guess he hadn't reported in, and they were looking for him and hadn't found him. And the only reason why they were able to locate him was because people like Jerry had put a word out and had people giving the public notice that people were looking for this guy. Yeah. So it's a little nuts that we have, we've got systems in place where people can at least make an effort to track down criminals when they're doing harm, and they're not being utilized because of who knows what reason. Why, if law enforcement is so concerned about being able to do its job so badly, then maybe it should take the resources it has and stop asking people to keep increasing its resources that it doesn't need.
Such a great point, Ed. Such a great point. And just to bolster that point, right? He was charged with felony burglary and identity theft in March 2020 and released on his own recognizance the same day. A week later, he was charged with another burglary and was given a recognizance bond for the new charge by Judge Ramon Ocasio, but was ordered to be held without bond for violating the conditions of his previous arrangement, right? So this he's already in the system. We have video footage of him doing the crime. He didn't change his clothing, which Jerry was right. He stood out like, I mean, bright white tracksuit. It's like how much work does this really take? And and I'm grateful that he is no longer, at large. And yeah, for such a simple kind of a case where you have video surveillance, where you have a record of a person, this should be pretty open and shut as far as nabbing the guy. Now, today I believe was the day they arrested him, and Wednesday last week was the day that he was caught on camera lighting a person on fire. And so. Yeah, just a little more. He said he was going to burn some trash. He said he poured the gas onto some blankets and used a lighter to set them and ran. He also claimed he did not know a person was there. He did not provide a specific motive other than being angry.
Yeah, there's no way he didn't know.
I think. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Jerry.
Yeah, okay. Jerry.
My activity monitor is normal. It was like freaking out before. So I don't know what's up. I apologize to everybody. I don't know where you're at with the story, but when I left you, Kira, when I dropped out, my contact at CPD, I was just trying to figure out how we could find out who the tipster was. But when it came out in the article that you read, it was a police officer. Nobody stepped forward to like claim the reward I offered yet. I mean, if it was a cop, I guess I'm going to ask him if like the cop knew about the reward, although it just blows me away that a cop knew who this guy was. And you guys have probably already gone over all this, but, this guy was like out on bail.
We just talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's accurate. So right now he's in police custody and go ahead.
When you've got that kind of a rap sheet. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, he is being charged with arson and torturous attempted first-degree murder. But if Mr. Crumellis dies, which is highly likely, we're still watching for updates, it will be bumped up to first-degree murder. So, anything from you, Kit?
Yeah. So I know there's like all four of us here. So Jerry, since you're finally here on the live stream, I think I should bow out. I mean, if anything, so that way there's still three people up here. But what I want to say to everyone that's watching Chicago Corner, look, this villainous person has been caught, and the walking dude, and he has a name, he's a person. He may not survive this horrifying attack that came upon him. But let this be a rally for the people of Chicago to finally wake up, to finally say enough is enough. Enough of the violence. Enough of the brutality. We as Chicagoans live in this city, and we've been standing off against these jagoff politicians, these corrupt police officers, these corrupt politicians that constantly abuse us and hurt us and put us in this environment of neoliberalism and abuse. Half the mental health facilities in Chicago have been shut down. We have unchecked corruption at the political level as well as our police. I think it's finally long overdue that we get not politicians, but leaders in our communities to step up and run in the 2023 election year in Chicago. 2023 is going to be our year to cast our vote. And here's what we're going to do here at Chicago Corner. We're going to interview these candidates. We're going to interview these incumbents. If they have the courage to come up to Chicago Corner or in Chicago Corner Can TV, we'll interview them. But we want to see change. we have a pledge. Edward, Jerry, and Kira, and myself, we've been working on this pledge so that we can get a mayor in Chicago that can do right by the people. This city is filled with good people. Chicago is filled with wonderful communities. So if we want to end this abuse, we got to step up. Now, that means getting involved in electoral politics. That means getting involved in all this bullshit. But we got to step up. Cassie Power says, are you and Ed running? Unfortunately, no, we are not. I know my own character. I will get too angry. Mm-hmm. And I will get... I will choose
decorum, Kit. Decorum.
Yeah, decorum. And it's better to have a Caesar or an Augustus than a Mark Antony, because I will get angry. But I think we're all angry. But I would like to contribute as being a voice to give a platform to people that really can go that extra mile, to really step up and fight for Chicago. So no, Edward and I are not running. But I encourage real leaders, real community organizers to step up and run for this election. 2023 is our time to make things change. So let's make it happen.
And it's about time. It's about time.
We're not running because we're doing a different role this time around. We need to hold them accountable, which is why we have the pledge, which is why we are working on those types of demands, and why we are going to ask the candidates what they're going to do for us, because we can't live with platitudes anymore. There's no time for that.
Yeah. And Kathy asks if I'm running. I actually considered running for office for a good long time, and then through my experiences, I decided that it's just really not for me.
Get out! Give the people
not right now. Not right now. Not right now. I could see a future in it, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. All right. So moving on from this story, I don't know, Kit, if you're going to be sticking around or heading out. Either way,
I'll stick around.
Totally okay with it.
If Jerry can't join in, I'll still stick around. So there we go.
Yeah. Kathy says, do it. I had considered it some years ago when my organization actually approached in regards to running for an office. And I just haven't been ready, mostly because of my own other goals in life. So I don't think that's too close in the future, but I wouldn't rule it out ultimately. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on to the next depressing story. Who's ready? Oh,
Kira,
man.
you can always skip past the really depressing ones. We can just decide that, look, we know this is going on. We don't have a solution right now. We're going to try and find people who have it, and then go to the next story and go, yeah, that one sucks too.
I'm ending the show on the mayoral pledge, because at the end of the day, Ed, here's what I think. Right? While we may not have like direct solutions to some of the problems we're facing right now, I do think that one of the solutions toward it is finding leadership that actually wants to get to the root of problems, which is what our mayoral pledge is all about. Right? It's not about let's put a curfew. Let's make sure a certain population of people aren't allowed to go somewhere. Right? Those are short-sighted. They're reactive, and they actually make things worse. Right? They actually make things worse. And so I do think that we have solutions. They just don't sound as direct as the bullshit solutions we've been given and fed. Right. So that's what I think. So we're going to end today's show by talking about the mayoral pledge. And those are our solutions to this. And so let's just dive into the what's so, right? Memorial Day weekend just passed, and that Trump Tower attack comes as crime has been surging in Chicago and everywhere for that. Crime has been surging everywhere in the nation, in a trend that continued through Memorial Day weekend. 52 people were shot over the holiday weekend, including 10 people who were shot fatally. That was Fox 32 that reported, but then there was, I forget which other outlet reported 47 shot and 9 fatally. Regardless, those are all far too high in numbers. The shootings represented the most violent Memorial Day holiday weekend in 5 years. About half of the shooting victims were wounded on the west side, while south side saw 13 victims, and the area had 3 shooting victims. By Monday morning, shootings had outpaced last year's Memorial Day weekend when 37 people were shot, 3 of them fatally. The incidents occurred under Mayor Lori Lightfoot and police super. Listen to this. The incidents occurred under Lori Lightfoot and Police Superintendent David Brown's holiday safety plan, which took months in the making, and it included more officers on the street, canceled days off, and 21-hour days. So that's weird. You mean a bigger police presence didn't resolve the issue of violence over Memorial Day weekend? Crazy, right? And I think that we all already know that a larger police presence does not actually tamp down violence and shootings across the city. We see it time and again in all sorts of anecdotal situations. So before I dive into some of the more novel stories from over the weekend, do you guys have anything to say about that before I continue on?
No, continue on, Kira.
Right on. So one of the more meta examples of the rampant gun violence in the city is basically that Chicago police released photos of a man that they say pulled a gun and aimed it at a TV news crew as a reporter was doing a story on, you guessed it, gun violence. So let's go ahead and take a moment to look at, oh, look at that. Why is that not working? There we go. Take a look at that video. So here we go.
And for a news reporter, you have to watch closely. In Chicago, caught on camera. That's
I don't know if you guys saw that, but they're going to replay it.
Joni Lum was reporting on the shooting in Texas.
Right
yesterday.
there.
Here's a kind of a slow mode
my God.
version of it. Reporting on gun violence when a man walks up and appears to flash a gun right in the middle of her live report. Many online are speculating whether the man actually had a real gun or not. He did send out.
Yeah, he did.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's just basically it's like he knew they were doing a gun violence story and said, "Oh, how about I brandish my weapon for a few seconds and then just skip away because they're not going to do anything."
Yep.
So,
exactly.
It is what it is. What can we do about that?
Not only are you a scumbag, whoever did that, but at the same time too, if that person didn't have any kind of control over their trigger finger, and let's say could have killed the cameraman, could have killed the reporter. I think it's long overdue to do something about gun violence and gun control. I know that there are more guns in this country than people, but God damn it, I mean, enough's enough. Mm-hmm. Something's got to be done. I'm tired of the excuse of, this is what it is. We have to live with it. No other country in the world has to deal with school shootings. No other country in the world has to deal with mass shootings happening in public areas.
Yeah.
We're the only ones, and yet we claim to be this global superpower, high atop the throne, that we're the best of the best, that everyone should live here. Yeah, we don't have Medicare for all. We don't have affordable education. We don't invest into our infrastructure. We have politicians that have been bought off. And we have out-of-control gun violence because of this love affair of the Second Amendment. Let me be very clear here. If the United States was ever in a real war and the civilian population got invaded by, let's say, aliens or robots or a foreign power, most of these militias and badass mofos that think they're tough would break. All right? You're not as tough as you think you are.
No, and you don't have the gun power you think you have when it comes to battling any kind of government. That kind of tyranny is at this point sort of out of our reach as far as like self-defense is concerned. That weaponry in those sorts of conditions are going to be pretty I wouldn't say useless. You might get kind of far, but you know, if someone's going to fly over a drone over your place, you know, what are you going to do? So it's what it got me really present to, which is not that I'm not present to it already on a regular basis, is just that you're literally walking anywhere in the city, anywhere, right? Not just the city of Chicago. I want to keep highlighting that it's not just Chicago that's dealing with this issue, but you can literally be anywhere, and anybody with any sort of mental health issue, anybody who's completely sane, anybody who's anybody can have a gun. That's it. That's what that video shows me.
Can we just
None of
leave
us are
up
safe
the?
at any point in time.
Yeah, can we just leave up Trisha's comment for the rest of the show?
Kira's right. Hey, Kira,
Kira's right.
Kira, it's like the cover for your greatest for your book. Kira's always right. Like it should be you. Like I'm always right.
And she's a sweet snack.
Yeah, there you go.
go.
No, I wasn't even going to say that. Okay.
Well, that's your sweet snack stance. That's why I like that.
Yes. No, I said it's a nice thick snack. There we go.
It's a nice thick snack.
There you go. I was saying for the record, Kira's always right. The cover speak. Kira's always right. There you go.
That's right. Don't you forget it. I'm not always right, but I get close to about 98, 99%. So that's kind of what came up for me. According to the Chicago Police Department, the unidentified man walking behind the reporter, flashing what appeared to be a gun toward the camera. He walked off at about 6:30 a.m. on Wednesday in downtown Chicago. The pair were in the middle of a live segment about ironically last week's mass Texas school shooting when the man passed behind Fox 32 News. I already said that there are about 50 million more guns in the country than there are citizens. So we are definitely swimming in a sea of guns, which means that a solid percentage of folks are definitely carrying, right? And I don't know about anybody else, but I hear a lot of talking points that say, like, more guns make you feel safer. And I tend to go to the other end of the spectrum on that. More guns make me feel very, very unsafe. And so arming everybody with guns is definitely not my idea of a good time. But I mean, I could be in the minority here. Anybody else feel safer with more guns?
Here's the thing.
Or if you had a gun, Kit, or if you had a gun, Ed?
Look, I want to say this about weapons and guns, all right? You have to be professional, and you have to understand that these are tools, right? But you have a lot of people in this country that have access to firearms that don't know what they're doing. They might claim they know what they're doing at the range, but some of these people are not safe. Some of these people are not professionals. Vast majority of them have no idea really how to handle the responsibility of firearms. So as far as I'm concerned, having more guns is a detriment because it really depends on the person's ability to understand what they have in their possession, and two, what's going on up here. How well are they up here? Because if you're having a person that's not well and they have access to a lot of firearms, that's a recipe for disaster. You know, I just want to bring up something a little bit different. I mean, it's not connected to the story, but you know, there was a YouTube channel called FPS Russia, right? I think I'm right on the name, right? And he used to do, reviews. It was a guy pretending to be a Russian, right? Using a fake Russian accent. And he was always shooting different firearms. One day, the person who supplied him his weapons to test on his YouTube channel, his house got robbed, and all those weapons were taken away. Now, there was a big scandal afterwards, and Kira, I mean, you know, maybe it's something you and I can react to someday, the story of FPS Russia, right? But it's frightening for me to think that there are people that have access to a lot of firearms that have no idea what they're doing. Mm-hmm. You know, there are people that shouldn't have weapons. And the thing is, I'll never forget this time in the Marine Corps when I was at this rifle range. We were doing a specific training, and one of the instructors, he was a major, an officer, and he said something that still resonates with me to this day. He was talking about weapons and fire control, and then he made a joke like, "I will never do hunting with civilians. These people don't know what the fuck they're doing."
Yeah.
I mean, that's talking about American civilians. Like, for the most part, look, a lot of civilians think they're badasses. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we see that in these actual, in real time, in these open, these shooter stories, right? You take a look at even, the Uvalde story, and I know everybody's heard about it, but like even the cops who are supposedly trained in this weren't going in the school.
1 hour.
Yeah.
1 hour, they didn't do shit.
It's like there's just so much. I mean, there's just so much. It's so. I believe that the topic of guns is so oversimplified when people talk about them, and that's why Ed, when Ed and I came on to chat, he was like, I don't love talking about things that there's not really a solution for. And I said, well, at the very least, what we can highlight and illustrate is that this is not a simple thing. We are surrounded by guns, and there's no way to stop that from happening on a municipal level in any kind of real way. I mean, I don't know if I'm just not seeing something. That can be done at that level. Like we can't search people coming into the city, right? I wouldn't even, petition for that.
No, I mean, there's a lot of constitutional issues involved in privacy. I mean, just aside from the Second Amendment issues, it's difficult to talk about because there's different perspectives on whether guns even provide safety when they're used properly. So, and we've learned that sometimes, even when you have law enforcement who have been trained in the use of these weapons, if they're just going to stand by and do nothing, why do they even have them?
Yeah, absolutely. And the 3 parents that got into the school in Uvalde, for example, I don't believe that they were carrying weapons and they got their children out safely. So there was a possibility of that happening as well. So the statistics just show when there's a gun involved, there's more likely of a gun death and a death in general, because guns are literally tools for killing, right? So the probability of death is just so much higher when a gun is around versus, a length of rope or a knife or even a machete, which is a story that didn't make the rundown today, but there was a machete attack as well this weekend as well. So, but that machete strike killed 1 person, and and I think that if there were more limitations on the ability to get a gun,
what we need though, Kira, is we need more good guys with machetes. And
all right,
they have to be properly machete trained, a well-regulated machete militia.
Machete militia. At least it has alliteration, you know what I mean? I like machete militia.
You know what? A little bit side note. I just finished watching the series Tokyo Vice. In the beginning scene, they're putting on bulletproof vests, and I won't spoil too much, but this is like the first episode. They're putting on bulletproof vests because they're in Japan, and the guy says, "Do you think they'll shoot us?" They're like, "No, this is to stop the knives from stabbing us." Because in Japan, it's different. Like shootouts don't really happen, because you're talking about the Yakuza, right? Tokyo Vice, I'm gonna actually, after we're done with the show, I'm gonna watch the rest. We're gonna do a repeat watch it because that's how great it was. But it's just like, crazy world we live in.
It is, and getting more and more dangerous. And I hate highlighting that fact. And the next story isn't gonna do much else to not highlight that. So. Where do these guns come from, right? We all know that anyone from outside of the city can come in with the gun or several. So that's not really a mystery. And as for technology, it's just getting more and more advanced, and guns are being 3D printed and assembled from ordered parts online. Just this weekend, guy Devin Dow, who's 22 years old, was the focus of an undercover sting operation. He was assembling so-called ghost guns. They were Glock-style 9mm semi-automatic firearms from weapons-grade polymer parts purchased on the internet. The case against Dow represents a new frontier in gun trafficking investigations. Ghost guns have increasingly drawn alarm among law enforcement and politicians on both the local and national stage, even though they still account for just a small percentage of all firearms confiscated by police. Earlier this month, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed a bill into law making the selling or owning of ghost guns illegal in Illinois. And that was followed by a move by President Joe Biden's administration in April, banning manufacturing of ghost guns, including the kits people buy online to build firearms themselves. Ghost guns are often made by hobbyists. What's that?
These are performative things that they're doing, though, because I mean, if you're gonna get a ghost gun or you're gonna make a ghost gun, you're not gonna care that they made it illegal for you to have or make one. The whole point of those things is that they're largely untraceable. Because the parts can be basically 3D printed, or at least most of them can be 3D printed. Yeah. I think there's only like a small handful of component parts that you have to have made or manufactured from a different way in order to assemble all that stuff into something that can actually be used as a gun.
Right. And is there any way to stop anybody from getting the parts to assemble those guns?
Well, you'd have.
Is that even a thing?
Unfortunately, what they would basically have to do is ban 3D printers, and that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen either, right?
3D printers, no, they're still here.
Yeah. So you make a great point, Ed. It's like these guns. I mean, they're not registered.
I mean, in this case, 3D printing. It's they have 3D printers on space station now, I believe, because sometimes they have to make a part that they can't wait for the next supply mission to rocket up to the space station, and so you can't just outlaw 3D printing because somebody's going to make a weapon.
Correct.
It would be like outlawing a metal shop class in high school because someone might cast a sword.
Yep. And and I think that that's a great point, Ed. It's like, well, how are you going to stop that from happening, right? So basically, it would just be an extra charge if you're caught.
Yeah, I guess at this point, all it is that they're making it so that there's something on the books to charge them with when they catch them. Because, I mean, at a certain point, if you manufactured your own weapon and the Second Amendment says that you have the right, that Congress can't make a law to prevent you from, having arms, and if you made it yourself, they don't have a law on the books, that there might be a defense there. So I imagine that's what they're trying to. They're trying to close a loophole there.
Right on. Okay. Well, in Chicago and nationwide, the number of ghost guns used in crimes has increased over the past several years. It is David Brown, the superintendent at Chicago Police, said that they are the subset of guns seized that is growing the most. So just some examples of some stories recently that we've heard that involved ghost guns. The fatal shooting of 16-year-old Shondell Holiday near the Bean in Millennium Park, which we reported on here. Police said another youth pulled a gun from his waistband and ran as officers moved in. He was quickly apprehended, and the weapon was found to be a ghost gun. And in another recent case, Illinois State Police arrested suspects in connection to multiple carjackings and found that they had allegedly used a ghost gun in at least some of the heists. And also this month, and this kind of hits a little close to home, not a little close to home, a lot close to home. A student at Oak Park River Forest High School, which is where my daughter will eventually go to high school and which is where my husband went to high school, was arrested and charged with bringing a loaded ghost gun to school. So this guy that was caught this weekend, he was charged with one count of willfully dealing firearms without a license, and he was released on home confinement to the custody of his mother and sister who live in Lansing. He has no other criminal record, and the weapons in total since January sold for $3,000, and they were among 7 ghost guns purchased by undercover agents from Dow over 5 transactions. Yeah.
We have to. I guess we have to just keep stressing that we need more proactive solutions like community support, mental health
That's right.
facilities, financial aid, all the things that can help these families keep these kids from turning into, the next mass shooter. I mean, obviously, there's probably more complications than just dealing with mental health, but also Uh, they deal with bullying. I imagine they're much better at dealing with that stuff now than they were back when we were kids, in high school or in other school. But it's got to still happen, and kids need to have some type of outlet, or have somebody to talk to, or people to communicate with, so that it doesn't become a situation where the only solution they see or the only reaction that they see is one of violence. What do we do? We have to keep asking, what do we do? What can we do? What are we not doing? And and those are things that we talk about when we'll talk about people who want to run for mayor, people who want to run for local office, and deal with the issues that you have in local government, in local communities. And that is going to include mental health, physical health, financial health, community support, social services, safety nets, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, we have a very sick society.
Yeah.
Very sick.
We have a society, but also it's been built this way by these politicians who've been in power for more than 10 or 20 years. You have politicians that have no new ideas whatsoever. And same thing here at the city level. You have politicians, say, for example, Ed Burke. Him and his family have been in control of that ward for 75 plus years. Like, Ed Burke inherited a seat from his dad. That's not democracy. That's feudalism right there. You also have other career politicians in the city of Chicago that, again, don't care about the people, that only care about legacy, name, and the fact that their family has been in control of that ward or district for X amount of years. And then we have this Mayor Lightfoot, who's an absolute hypocrite and a fraud, who, in my opinion, if she gets reelected, she will go on a path of vengeance to go after everyone and anything that ever dare criticize against her. Like, honestly, Lightfoot cannot be reelected, in my opinion. We cannot afford a second term of Mayor Lori Lightfoot. If you thought that she was petty and thin-skinned now, wait till you see her on her second term, because she'll get the bright idea that people in this city like her.
Yeah, and she is out of touch, that's for sure. Hey, Jerry, you're back.
Back from the dead, mother effers.
All right.
We're glad you made
I'm not even going to go into what's going on this end, but I think I have it under control, and I at least wanted to rejoin you guys for the tail end of the show because I was really looking forward to seeing you all and participating. So I'm just going to shut up, and I've been listening on my phone and catch up with wherever you are.
I think you're just in time for where we take a slight turn here on the stories.
Okay.
I was going to talk about, who's here to help us, right? And
we could do the Lamborghini story.
That's what I was going to point out. Is the Lamborghini
Wasn't that a crazy
story.
one?
That is a wild one. So yeah, like I said, I picked out some novel stories from the weekend just to highlight what it is that we're dealing with, right? So I don't feel like we can count on our law enforcement to protect us for so many reasons. And it's illustrated by this weekend's violence as well. But the story regarding a gunman in a black Lamborghini who is still at large since Sunday morning at 5 a.m.
How do you lose a Lamborghini?
Well, I think the major point of the article was there's probably maybe 10 black Lamborghinis within the state of Illinois. And even if the vehicle was
there are 2,800. So I'm guessing that in the city of Chicago or even the state of Illinois, there probably are not. I tried to get the exact number because the guy said, I bet they're like 12, Yeah. There are 2,800 in the whole country, Lamborghinis. And I don't know about black Lamborghinis.
Well, crimes.
That narrows
They
it
also
down even more, right?
Right.
They also said crimes are usually committed with stolen vehicles. So it's possible, however unlikely, that this crime was committed by someone who stole a Lamborghini. Although I would imagine that if someone had their Lamborghini stolen, it would be all over the police blotter to begin with.
For sure.
But it's just so bizarre that they can't narrow down and figure out, like, with the handful of specifically black Lamborghinis in the state of Illinois, any kind of a lead to figure out what the association was or who has their hands on that vehicle right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's plenty of evidence. There's video surveillance of it, which I could not come up with. I don't know if y'all found any. But, it made even more infuriating by the fact that while it's well known that anyone who owns or drives a black Lambo will incessantly post pics of themselves and send motor car to social media, the cops haven't made.
You would think. I mean, the first place they should go is like Twitter or Instagram and look for somebody who's showing off their brand new black Lamborghini, and they're like, "Oh, wait, I wonder if that's the guy we're looking for."
Right. Yeah. So I this is not the only piece of evidence that I've seen where I don't really have it that we can count on the police to help us in this violent situation.
Kira, I'm kind of up to speed on what happened with the Joseph Cormellis story. My big problem last week was the blue light cameras. How could they not find this guy faster? Now, I do give them credit that they ended up finding him, but then when we come to stories about the black Lamborghini and they've got no leads on it, and what you were talking about a few minutes ago also related to how you couldn't depend on the police in Uvalde, Texas, who've got all those weapons and are too afraid to go into a school where they're supposed to risk their lives to save kids because they put their lives first. As much respect as I want to have for law enforcement, I'm just like, I've got one lead at the police department who's very good about, giving me information, and he's not happy about what he sees internally as a Chicago police officer either. But and I know that there are good cops out there like him, right? But when we see all this other stuff, it just shakes your faith in their training.
Oh, man, my faith is like not even shaken. It's like it's basically crumbled. Personally. I've very little, if none. Just and honestly, it's just based in what I see in the news.
You expect to do better. You expect, with all the money that we throw at the equipment and the training and the overtime and from money from COVID funds to like increase, presence on the streets. It's like, that's the definition of insanity. We're doing the same thing over and over and over, and it's not changing anything. To Ed's point, when I was logging in, again, proactive as opposed to reactive solutions. This city, it seems our leadership will never embrace the concept of doing things differently because I don't know if it's just ingrained in their brains. They just don't want to. They don't want to invest in poor people. They don't want to invest in poor communities. They don't want to invest in citizens because they think that continuing to like fund the cops who are not properly trained and just pick up people and throw them in jail is the solution that a lot of other people are getting rich off of.
Right. And we all know that prison just wrecks people's lives, and then just exacerbates the same.
And it's kind of a cycle too. It's they're so used to just putting the funds or the resources into law enforcement, and then everything else for them is a trial run, a test, just a small little possible, virtue signaling thing to see, let's see if maybe this works, and then the public will shut up for a couple months while we try out this new thing that they've been screaming for us to do for decades. And then in the meantime, they do a half-assed, like non-substantial or insubstantial version of the thing that we really need. And so then on the chance that it fails, then they say, well, we tried it and it didn't work. Let's go back to the other thing.
You're right. Exactly.
Where we keep funneling money into police departments who, for some reason, can't find a black Lamborghini.
Right.
I also want to add on something here too. Let's talk about the police department. You know, with the amount of inept behavior that we've been seeing, especially let's look at the Chicago Police Department too. You know, it doesn't have to be this way, and this could have all been dealt with if we actually had leaders at the political level that actually, you know, maybe held the CPD accountable, held all police departments accountable for their actions, for their inept behavior. Because I want to bring this up with what happened in Texas. You know, I never heard a firefighter saying, "I don't want to rush into a burning building because it's really hot."
Yeah.
You know,
Might have been dangerous.
Might have been dangerous. I've never heard of
I feared for my life. I feared for my life. I didn't want to enter the burning building because I feared for my life.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're
kind of part of the job. Yeah, absolutely. You're a firefighter. You're a crime
No.
fighter. You're
Whole job. Yeah, we want you to get home safe yourself. But since you decided to take this job and understand that you have part of that job is risking your life to protect us. That's what the police department is for. Although, you know, we also know that unfortunately it seems that the police department is more there to protect rich people's property as opposed to citizens who, you know, are under siege, whether it's in schools or on the streets.
Yeah, that's why I would be surprised if that Lamborghini was stolen. Like, that was actually the first thing that came to mind. Was like, if that Lamborghini was stolen, those guys would have been caught, I bet.
Yeah, of course they would have.
So just a thought. IndependentVoterParty.org makes a point that we were talking about putting on the mayoral pledge list about cops, community policing, cops actually policing areas that they live in. So it's their community.
Yeah, living in their own community.
As a matter of fact, I'm adding that to the pledge document right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I just wanted to bring up all of those different angles of the gun violence issue, because I just wanted to highlight that, like, it's not an easy issue for a municipality to resolve.
Yeah.
So, and this is our Chicago mayoral pledge list here. These are all of the things that we will be asking the mayoral candidates in this upcoming election. Demanding. Well, we'll of course demand it, assuming they've promised it, right? Because we have to ask them if that is something they align with.
Well, we did upgrade this last week into a manifesto, so yeah, definitely it's got to be demands now.
Right.
Okay, so the line I'm adding to the provide properly trained public security is law enforcement and public security personnel should reside in the areas they patrol or support. And I don't know if we need to add any additional languages there as far as what type of personnel, because obviously, you know, we could have like social services support and all those other people. Yeah, obviously, you should be supporting the city you live in, basically supporting the neighborhoods that you are going to be working in. If you're going to be a public employee, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Oh, it's definitely, especially with people who wield as much power as the police. Which also, I don't think that they should have that much power either. So, which is another piece, that qualified immunity piece, that is also a demand on our mayoral pledge to the city. So, yeah. Okay. So that is from Memorial Day weekend, just an update on the crime, but also some of the more novel items that highlight just how rampant everything has become. And again, I also want to highlight that this is not only a Chicago problem, right? Everybody talks about Chicago like it's some, you know, constant bloodbath. And I want to highlight that this kind of violence is increasing everywhere. I think it was Philadelphia who also had records this weekend, 13 fatally shot in Philadelphia, and many, many more shootings than that. So it's going on all over the place. That doesn't make it better for the city of Chicago. It just makes it horrible for everybody everywhere else as well. So this is a national issue. So all of this, political, basically offloading to shit on our city is bullshit. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's just a distraction. It's a diversion. At this point, it's we understand that violence happens because of the certain conditions that are causing it, and Chicago, and like you said, Chicago's not is not unique in the economic and social conditions that we're all facing in this country right now.
I also want to point out something in the chat. Little posted this: Gators with Lambos. They'll never catch Chance now. And by the way, just an update for Chance the Snapper. He's actually dominating and grew up bigger, and now he controls his entire pen.
Yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah, Chance Snapper. There we go. Like today's a grim dark story.
Today's a grim day, so yeah. I'll take any light stories right now.
Chance Snapper is the alpha male. He alpha male in his pen. So all the ladies are just bowing down before Chance Snapper. There you go.
Yeah. And then independentvoterparty.org says the one demand from voters should be for their elected officials to represent their interests and needs, not the corporate donors. Constituent polling will accomplish this. It reminds me slightly of what TrueDemocracyNow.org says, where there's basically like direct voting for every issue. But then I mean, I think it's pretty blindingly obvious that they already don't vote in our interests. But if there are more direct polls, polls that maybe more people can believe in and step into belief around, that might be nice. But I think that most people do believe that the majority of Americans want some sort of gun control, right? And poll after poll shows that. Same with marijuana legalization, same with universal health care. We see that the majority of people want these things and they still are not being given to us. So, I mean, it would be nice to have polling for everything. I do like that idea of direct democracies. Oh, both websites are running. Hey, Dom, what's up? What's going on? I didn't know that was you. Thanks for joining. Anyway, let's move on to the next grim story. Okay. This one, oh, hey, I want to highlight that in the chat. I don't know if we have a moderator in the chat.
Did we put casino in the title again? Okay.
No, we didn't.
The bots are back.
Oh, yes.
Bots are back.
All right, let's get rid of it.
Let's moderate that. I'm aware.
I took care of it. Okay.
I am aware of my ability to. All right, so here we go.
I wonder what the trigger word was.
HD. Okay, so, and those of you who don't see the chat, sorry, there's a little vulgarness in the chat right now. Let's move on.
Yeah, we get the robot sex porn bot
from Russia.
In the chat room.
From Russia. It's from Russia.
Oh, man. And then Turkey Day, UBI 20K, adult 5K, kid and universal medical would save America a fortune on mass shootings and the rest.
Yeah, but some type of basic income would be helpful, I think. I mean, some economists might criticize that if they're putting too much money into the economy, you're going to create too much demand if you don't have enough supply, and then they complain about inflation. But the reality is that when you give people money to spend, it goes right back into the economy, and then the entire economy does better. You might get slightly more demand just because you'll have consumers who actually have money to spend as opposed to the ones that don't. But it'd be better to have some demand than no demand. And that's the thing that people aren't getting when they complain that giving people money to survive is somehow going to cause some spike in inflation, as opposed to the price gouging and the supply chain nightmares that have been manufactured by the same jerks who were telling you this other lie that giving people money is the problem.
That's right, Ed. That's really well said. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. All right. So we're gonna touch on the topic of homelessness in Chicago now, because again, like, we are talking about crimes of desperation, and not to say that like the homeless are necessarily the criminals, but I think that what we can really see is a connection of desperation and violence, right? And homelessness is just one of those parts of being desperate as a human. It's a part. It's a necessity for all human beings, and unfortunately, a lot of human beings don't have that necessity. So Ed, you shared a Cranes Forum article about homelessness, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit.
The one in the private chat.
Yeah. I just
I
thought
had
it
a
had some.
sometimes one I just gave you.
I kind of combined two articles, so whichever one you
Okay.
bring up is probably going to be fine.
Okay,
But I
I'm
thought
not
that the
sure where the
numbers were
Cranes
really
one is.
interesting. The point
Oh,
in
that
time.
one. Okay, hold on.
Count. It annually assesses sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness at one moment in time. Although the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development requires a count every 2 years to determine federal funding, the Chicago Department of Family and Support Services in 2013 implemented yearly counts for the city. So Julie Dworkin is director of policy at Chicago Coalition for Homeless, and she says that HUD has a housing urban development department. Not development, has a much narrower view of homelessness, and the PIT count dramatically undercounts homelessness. So basically what Julie's saying is like their definition of homelessness is a little bit more narrow than what the definition of homelessness for the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless is. And they say, so the PIT is saying that 5,290 people in Chicago are experiencing homelessness right now, while the coalition is estimating that 58,000 273 people are. And if you're undercounting a population by 10 times, that is a very serious issue. You cannot resolve an issue without the actual facts in front of you. Like imagine, trying to get somewhere with your GPS and not knowing where you're starting from. Right. So, in July 2021, a study by University of Chicago Inclusive Economy Lab looked at student homelessness alone. And in Chicago, nearly 18,000 students lack a stable place that they get to call home. The authors wrote that, and of these students experiencing homelessness, 85% of them identify as Black. The pandemic did push many Chicagoans into homelessness, but just how many is still unknown, Dworkin said. To speed up getting more people permanently housed, advocates have sought an ordinance that would require the Chicago Housing Authority to fill more of its vacant units, which we've talked about. Some of those units could be filled by those experiencing homelessness, but the wait list is long. People are waiting months and months and months and months to get listed on that waiting list. Not listed, but called up, I should say. The Chicago Transit Authority, or CTA, has received more complaints of homeless riders this year, but spokeswoman Catherine Hosinski says that it could be because of overall ridership is up and that more people might be making complaints, but ridership was up before the pandemic too. And I don't know if it was comparable to before pre-pandemic complaints. Advocates point to a number of recent factors that might be causing people to live on trains and to seek non-traditional shelter citywide. Space in shelter remains limited, with slightly fewer city-funded beds available than pre-pandemic. Some people also remain reluctant to go to shelters because of strict rules, or like you have to be there at a certain time, right? There's a time cutoff, or the continuing fear of COVID-19. Some who were staying with friends or family might have been asked to leave as the virus spread. So they may have lost their short-term living. Some don't feel safe in shelters. One homeless woman said she became homeless after her husband was fatally shot and she was no longer able to stay with his family. She sent her daughter to live with a family out of state and stayed in a shelter for a time, but she said her ID was stolen and lamented the conditions. Now that it's getting warmer, she hopes to find a tent to stay in. Corey Long, who's lived for years on trains and in shelters, said he began living on trains because of very bad decision-making, quote unquote, and drug use. When he sleeps on the train, he usually wakes up to find at least one of his belongings have been taken, like his phone. Once a week, late night, service providers set up folding tables on the first floor of the Forest Park station to help those sleeping on trains apply for ID cards and provide basic medical care. Each screech of a train pulling into the station brought a new wave of new potential clients down the stairs from the platform to the night ministry's table. Some were newcomers and some are regulars. One man arrived looking for a follow-up appointment with the dentist who makes occasional visits to the organization. On one side of the station, they're lined up to wait for chips, snacks, turkey and cheese sandwiches with packets of yellow mustard, socks, sunscreen, hygiene, first aid kits. The pilot program is part of an expanded Office of Mental Health at the Chicago Department of Public Health and an increasing focus on a variety of services across the city. The people the night ministry works with were among the most vulnerable people at the start of the pandemic, relying on in-person programs and care that became unavailable as the city shut down. Among the highest needs the night ministry has reported to CDPH based on services of their clients are housing, winter clothing, and clean syringes and pipes. Also needed are clean clothes, food, and a shower. Psychiatric services are a priority, but finding a psychiatrist who can work late night hours has been a challenge. The hope eventually is to turn the pilot into a longer-term program. It would be one way for people in need to tap into a variety of other city services like care and housing. On September 2021, another effort by Mayor Lori Lightfoot and DFSS announced that more than $35 million in CARES Act funding and $1.3 million from Chicago funders together to end homelessness would go to Expedited Housing Initiative. It's a homeless intervention program aimed at connecting residents experiencing homelessness to available rental subsidies and units by removing barriers such as income verification and other limitations that impede expeditious placement. In total, Chicago allocated $117 million for homeless support services in the city's 2021 recovery plan. And then to further aid those affected by COVID-19, Lightfoot backed the Chicago Resilient Communities pilot, which Ed, you touched on. Low-income Chicagoans, 5,000 of them will receive $500 in monthly installments for 1 year to use as they wish. So this is one of the programs.
Yeah, they just turned me down today.
And
sorry.
I saw that. Yeah.
I applied because I figured, what the hell? Let's see what happens and see how the system works. Which means that if I just got a notification, then probably a whole lot of other people just got notifications that either said you either are part of the pilot or you're not. If you are part of the pilot and managed to get funds, let us know how it's going, or let us know when those funds are going to start for you. You can leave a comment after the show, after the live stream's over. If you're in the live stream now, you can leave a chat and email Jerry at chicagocorner.tv. Kira, do you have a Chicago Corner email?
I don't. I have a Heartlands Media.
We'll have to see if we can get one set up for you.
Yes. That would be great.
Kira at heartlandsmedia.com.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, Kira at heartlandsmedia.com. You can find me there. I'm seriously the easiest person on the planet to find, though. Like literally the easiest person on the planet to find. So just Google my name, you'll find me. I've got an IMDb page. Okay, just saying.
IMDb.
I like to brag about things that have no impact on my life.
You got your SAG-AFTRA card yet? Have you spoken enough lines?
It was years ago, and I was told to apply for a SAG card, but I was not interested in being an actor. I just kept getting put into things.
Getting back to there are like we said, there are programs that they are trying to do, but it always feels like it's a half measure, or they're trying to put duct tape on a giant leak of a problem that they really need to put more thought into. And if you can, if you can apply for these things and get the assistance, do it. If the city's going to give away support, take it if you can qualify. There's no shame in doing that kind of stuff. Your local governments are supposed to be supporting you, especially when times are tough. It shouldn't just be. We shouldn't just live in a city where everyone thinks pick yourself up by your bootstraps is the default option there. We should have we should have some limited, at least some limited basic support for everyone in the city, and you shouldn't feel bad about getting help you need in order to make sure that you as a citizen of this city can one day get yourself back into a situation where you are able to do more contributions to the city. It is going to be a team effort here. Some of our representatives have lost their way. They've forgotten that. It's why we're trying to change that here at Chicago Corner. We're doing things like the pledge, the Chicago Corner Manifesto, as Jerry has now titled it for us. The 2023 Chicago Mayoral Pledge to the City, which I have called the North to South and East to West Pledge.
Absolutely. It's long overdue that mayors and everyone else in Chicago really hear from the people. So I, for one, love the idea.
So this isn't just us putting these ideas together. Although I did hammer out a bunch of these in one night, and we've been slowly adding and revising to it. We want to hear from you.
I think you did such a great job, Ed, by the way. I love this thing, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just proud. That's all.
Well, no, thank you. But the reality is that because I've been involved with Chicago Corner and talking with Jerry and Kira and Kit and everyone else on the team who comes on the show and talks about these issues, I've been more informed and more able to communicate these ideas, which we have turned into the Chicago Corner Manifesto.
Right.
So we've got the North to South and East to West pledge here, and I say it is via Chicago Corner staff and its audience because we want you involved in this as well. We leave comments in the live chat when you're joining us live. Leave comments in the chat if you're watching us after the live stream is over. Send emails to Jerry at chicagocorner.tv. Send an email to Kira at heartlandsmedia.com. If you have ideas on demands or services or city support that you think that a mayoral candidate should be responding to, a thing that you want them to be doing in order to get your vote. And it's nice to see Jerry joining us again as he is in his continuing battle with the gremlins. But we shall prevail, Jerry.
I think it's StreamYard because I think that when I originally logged in, StreamYard said they're adding things to their dashboard. And as I'm looking at my activity monitor, anytime I log into StreamYard is when my activity monitor goes through the roof. And I think it's because I'm on an older Mac that there's Chrome incompatibility issues. So I might need to get a new computer because this is just not going to work. Anyway, I've been following you on my iPhone, listening to you guys as I've been trying to get back in. So at least I'm kind of up to speed with what you guys are talking about.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you could join us when you can, Jerry. So
thank you, Kira.
Yeah, so I don't know if we wanted to go over this again. I mean, we can run through it again. Or you got any more stories you want to cover, Kira?
I was going to cover just one more. I'm going to skip one of the stories I had on the roster, but there is one more story I think is muy importante to share, because I don't know. I just think that we should know how ripped off we're getting.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. All right. This one lit my hair on fire. All of the stories today lit my hair on fire. I can't believe I still have a head of hair. All right. So parking meters, you guys.
Oh, the green monster.
Yeah. So in their failed attempt to block Bally's $1.7 billion River West Casino downtown, city council members warned the deal was being rushed, just like one that privatized Chicago's parking meters. And it would end up being even worse for taxpayers, which, dudes, after I read this story, I can't, it could be worse as in we're getting ripped off and there's more violence in traffic. Okay. That's, okay, so the dire prediction is difficult to imagine, which is basically what I'm saying, considering the results of the latest parking meter audit by accounting giant KPMG. It shows Chicago parking meter revenues nearly back to pre-pandemic levels. After dipping to $91.6 million in 2020, they climbed to $136.2 million last year. With 61 years left on the 75-year lease. 75-year lease. What the fuck? Chicago Parking Meters LLC now has recouped its entire $1.16 billion investment and $502.5 million more. Listen to this. Private investors from as far away as Abu Dhabi would have made out even better if they hadn't brought in a new investor and borrowed $22 million at a 15% interest to get through the pandemic. That loan has already been fully repaid. What's more, 4 underground city-owned parking garages took in $22 million last year, up 35.8% from the $16.2 million made in 2020. Thanks to higher traffic and yet another increase in tolls, the privatized Chicago Skyway generated $114.3 million. That's a 24.2% increase in revenue and well over the $92 million in annual Skyway revenues in 2019, the year before the stay-at-home shutdown. Not a penny of those revenues went to ease the burden on Chicago taxpayers who had to absorb a $66.5 million increase in the city's property tax levy after a $94 million hike in real estate taxes the year before. Though Chicago...
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
That's right. Though Chicago Parking Meters LLC lost a third of its annual revenue in 2020, the system still generated enough money that year to spin off a $13 million distribution to investors. The revenue total was way higher than the $23.8 million in meter payments in 2008, the year before CPM took over the system. That's because the mayor and city council, afraid to risk a political backlash by raising parking meter rates themselves, chose to offload the meters instead of hiring Last Parking directly to administer the city-owned system with new technology. Investors were recouped another $6.7 million through a contract provision requiring the city to reimburse investors at every space taken out of service. That includes temporary street closures for special events, sewer repairs and other construction projects, and street closures that allow restaurants and bars to serve more customers outdoors when indoor capacity was restricted, if not prohibited. We pay them extra for those spaces that can't be used. That's insanity. In 12 full years since the meters were privatized, the city has handed over $78.8 million in true-up payments, as they are called. $78.8 million in payments because parking spots aren't available, because construction, other businesses, situations. Factoring in the newly reported figure for 2021, private investors have already extracted $2.1 billion from the deal, in part by refinancing 3 times. The latest refinancing for $1.2 billion was completed in 2019. Now that parking revenues have returned to normal, the company should end up making at least 6 times more than investors put in over the life of the deal.
Well, we're getting scammed, folks. That's what's happening. The green monster just keeps on bending us over. We just got to take it.
Right.
How many more years?
61. 61 years. I will be 101 years old.
I hope I'm dead before I see that. So bad.
Can you?
61 years. So I'm 37. So I will be 98. Be like, Kira, we're finally free of the green monster.
Yay! Now we can die. Now we can just die.
Now we can die.
There has to be. There has to be a way to cancel.
There's got to be a way to get out of this deal.
There is an extreme way to do it. Isn't what you would do is as the city of Chicago, you would dissolve the city and then reincorporate it as New Chicago, and then just get your debts discharged.
Ooh,
I
like that.
I don't know how the banks would feel about that, but if the city really wanted to, they could totally do a Darth Vader dinner scene and just say, I am altering the deal.
Yep.
Pray that I alter it no further.
I think that there's certainly a way out of it. I don't know what that way is because I don't have that expertise, but I know there are probably a lot of smart people, in and around government that could figure it out. I don't think there's political will to figure it out.
I'm all on board with naming New Chicago, making it happen. Why not? Let's have New Chicago be a thing.
And then of course, then we become the Buck Rogers timeline from the TV series, from the 80s TV series, 70s and 80s TV series, because Buck Rogers, he goes into the 25th century and comes back, and it's New Chicago. It's not Chicago anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course he talks, the history of those last 2,500 years wasn't so great, but then, maybe we can all just take a nice shuttle ride and get frozen and be in 2,500 years in the future. And at least by then, the parking meter deal will have expired if we hadn't actually canceled it out.
I bet if we talk to enough people and look around, we could find someone that knows a way out of that meter deal.
Yeah, we can get out of this deal.
We could get out of this, and I bet we can figure out how.
Yeah, we could. I mean, the reality is, you had pressure from a mayor that we no longer have.
Yeah.
And then approved by a city council, a majority of which aren't even there anymore. We could have a brand new mayor and a brand new city council say, what parking meter deal? We didn't make no parking meter deal.
I'd be okay with that.
Like, here, hold on. Here, watch. Hold on. Wait, I'm going to be the parking meter people. Kira, you're going to be the new mayor of Chicago.
Okay.
Excuse me. Oh. Mayor Kira.
I'm sorry. Who are you? Do we have an appointment? Do we have an appointment? Did you talk to my assistant outside before coming in here? I'm sorry. I don't even know who you are.
We are the parking meter people, and we have a deal with
Laz.
Chicago.
Are you Laz? Laz is our parking meter people. Last night. I'm sorry. You're going to have to make an appointment. You're going to have to make an appointment. I am a very important woman. You're going to have to make an appointment, sir. I am sorry. I'm sorry.
We ain't heard of nobody named Laz.
Somebody please get this person out of my office now.
No, get your hands off me.
I like how I have a phone next to me, but I chose my name.
Yeah, we're the city of Chicago, and we don't want no parking meter deal nobody sent. Miguel brings up an excellent idea.
That's what I'm saying. I bet we can find a way to get out.
We got to add it to the pledge here. So that's what we're gonna do right now.
I think that's a great idea.
Let's do that.
Turn this on a humorous note. I'll be like a random alderman, and you could be one of the parking meter people. So hold on.
Okay. Excuse me, Alderman Cabello. I am from the parking meter company.
I'm sorry. Who are you?
I have millions of dollars to line your pockets. I'm from the parking meter company who basically privatize all your meters and maintain that contract.
Listen, I don't know if you think this is old Chicago. This is new Chicago. There's certain things that are going to be run here. I have to deal with my constituents, and I'm going to have to bring this up to Mayor Kira. And she's going to be very upset that you interrupted my time, and then now I have to interrupt her time, so we're going to have to deal with it. So here's the thing. You're in my office. So here are the options I'm going to give you. There's an exit over there. There's an exit over there. There's a window right out there. I don't care which one you got to use, but you got to leave, motherfucker.
Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out.
Okay, so here we've added it. I think we got to make that a little bigger here. Okay. Oh, and by the way, we're canceling the parking meter deal.
That's right.
That's in there now. That's in the pledge.
What an insane waste of money. What an insane bleeding out of money. And then the other story that I skipped was another lawsuit for Chicago police. $2.1 million is it isn't the settlement yet, but I mean, the video footage is damning of the 14-year-old girl getting run over by a police car
No.
because of sheer negligence. So if you want to see that story, that is in the show notes below. But it is 9:01, and so I'm going to start wrapping up the show. And I want to thank everybody who joined me live: Kit, Ed, Jerry. What a great team we have here. I'm so grateful for all of you. I'm so glad that I get to work with you guys. It's such a pleasure every day, every week. And then, of course, to everybody who joined us in the chat and put in your opinions and contributed to the show. I learned from you guys so much. You have no idea how important of a part you are of the show. So I appreciate all of you. Yeah, anything that you want to. Anything that you guys want to promote before we go?
In late June, Chicago Corner will be premiering on Can TV. Very excited for these interviews that we got set up. We're getting more guests on to be on the show. So if you know candidates or politicians, activists, authors, community organizers, people that want to bring good to Chicago, reach out to us. We'll see if we can get them on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You know how to find us. We are happy to talk to anybody who is moving and shaking things up in the city. And then how about for you, Ed?
And finally, Chicago Corner is brought to you by Flavor Improving Mugs. The mugs that improve flavor.
There we go.
Flavor Improving Mugs available at the merch store. And I believe there's a link in the video description below.
There you go.
Sehr gut. And then and I bet those flavor improving mugs would make this freedom of speech sour ale.
They would improve the flavor of any
Even
beverage,
better.
including Lori Lightfoot's Triple Bean Espresso Roast, which I accidentally hit the button for.
I would totally drink that, though, that espresso roast. Trust me. All right, Coolio. And I'm Kira. You can find me at comfyfitness.com. You can find me here every Tuesday evening. I'm going to be joining Ed and Jerry and Kit on some of our Friday shows upcoming now that I'm actually my schedule's starting to get a little more sane. So hopefully I'll be seeing all of you more frequently and be sharing my thoughts with everybody as well. So catch me next week, or otherwise catch the gang here on Friday night at 7:30 p.m. Same time, same place. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Peace.